What up, fam? Hit that like, hit that subscribe. 1-0 talk. Let's go.
Let's go. This ain't the fuck like this game, he stinks.
Oh shit!
It's gone.
Mannery here, and you're listening to Agree to Disagree, the flagship, only on A2D Radio. Uncle Sweeps, Nick Delgazzo, the legendary Brian Wilson, and the fucking man himself, Tom Arnone. These three guys from Jersey bringing you real talk with no agenda. You don't like them? Tough shit. It's their show, and they're going to say whatever the hell they goddamn want.
Welcome in, everybody. This is Agree to Disagree, only on A2D Radio. Every Sunday, we're brought to you by our doc, Gotta Make Him Yours, Dr. Paul Vidal, Specialized Physical Therapy, LLC, location in Burlington, Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Find them right on the web, specializedphysicaltherapy.com. Make sure you tell them the boys at A2D Radio sent you. No Wells tonight, no sweeps tonight, but that's Greg. I'm Tom, and we're here to rock it out and talk some 1-0 talk with you. At the end of the show, we do a weekly. We'll give you our crumb of the week. We'll give you live reactions to the Sunday night game. Buccaneers versus Cowboys, and we'll swing around the NFL week 1 and talk a little bit about that. But our main topic at hand is going to be Eagles, Lions, and it's a little bit of the HUD Radio postgame show. We come to you every Sunday night, and we break it down for you. It's going to tie into our poll brought to you by Manscaped, and you can get 20% off and free shipping with the code HUD at manscaped.com. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. It's time to throw out your old hygiene habits and upgrade your life. Our poll for tonight, probably a unanimous agree unless there's haters in the room. A.J. Brown performed as advertised in the victory over the Lions. Do you agree or disagree? Let us know. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. That's where we're live. Everywhere you get your podcast, we're there as well. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the follow, give a 5-star review. More importantly, comment in the comment section because we are 1-0. It is an Eagles 38-35 victory. All right. Was it, we talked about it on Wednesday, stress-free? No, it's never going to be stress-free here in Philadelphia. But at the end of the day, like we always talk about, I don't care. We're looking for things, but I don't care. I'm about winning football games, and right now we're 1-0. A win's always better than a loss. We'll take it, especially when our whole division, obviously the Cowboys are playing now, but Giants, Commanders both win. Right, it's good to get out with a win, and we knew Detroit was going to be tough. It's week 1. Teams give you their best fight week 1. In terms of the poll, I absolutely agree that AJ Brown performed as advertised in the victory over the Lions. I know Sweeps commented in our text message thread and was like, "This guy's like a TO version. He's monstrous. He's huge. He's a big target, and obviously him and Jalen's relationship, you know." He came through with 10 catches for 155 yards, was tied his career high. So, I mean, you want to talk about an opening day performance out of a guy that we invested a lot into. I mean, that's as advertised. You can't ask for anything more. Like you said before we came on, the only thing you're goddamn missing is getting in the end zone, and we're good. We got in the end zone 4 times. We're going to talk about our concerns with this football team that really stem defensively, right? And there's little stuff with Jalen, but I want to talk about the positive things he did. And I thought there was some really good throws that show he can do it, and maybe he's gotten a little better at it. I don't expect him to be perfect this year. I just expect him to be better, right? And you got out with a win. You put up 31 points as an offense, right? When you take away the pick 6 by Bradbury, but you scored 31 points as an offense. That's as advertised too. I mean, our offense is exactly as advertised. The only thing you would like more is maybe get Devontae the ball more. Maybe Jalen could pull up on some of these runs and have a big chunk play downfield. We talked about we could do without 17 runs. You want to give us 10? You want to give us 12? Sure. Some of them you got to go on. And they're smart football runs, right? And they break down the defense. So I always want him to use his legs. I thought he had some big-time balls. I thought he had some balls he would like to have back. But at the end of the day, I thought I saw a little bit of growth, right? And that's what we're looking for, a little bit, right? I'm not going to tell you that he wowed me, but there were some throws that were timing throws, and he made them. And there were some throws that were timing throws that he didn't make. But we'll talk about his performance as we go on. But in terms of A.J. Brown, I mean, come on, people. Pound the like, hit the subscribe, because if you disagree with this, you're a moron. You're an idiot, and nothing will ever make you happy in life. Like your wife could give you it all one night, every little bit of her, right? And it still wouldn't make you happy. You'd wake up miserable and unhappy that your life's terrible, right? You're those kind of people. This is a stone cold agree. This is a big time move from Howie Roseman. You know, Sweep said earlier, makes you feel better about Justin Jefferson. It doesn't. It doesn't, because Justin will always haunt me. But this is a great way of giving your quarterback weapons, and that weapon came up big today and helped us in a 38-35 win. And obviously our rushing game, as advertised, number one rushing team in football last year, we did what we do, and we pounded the ball down a team's throat. And again, we'll talk about our concerns. We're going to want the people out there's concerns. We'll read off your comments. We'll get to you as the show goes on, because, listen, you guys drive it, right? And I'm reading a bunch of them now, and I can't wait. I can't wait to talk about some of them. Greg, go ahead. Agree or disagree? A.J. Brown performed as advertised in the victory over the Lions.
Yeah, I mean, again, stone cold, agree. Again, if I'm going to nitpick, the only thing I'm going to say is we didn't see much of him in the second half, but that was probably by design. As you're up, you're probably going to try and focus to run the ball a little bit more. And as you mentioned, the only thing he didn't do is get in the end zone, and that's not on him, right? But I thought Jalen's best ball was obviously that 55-yarder, that 54-yarder to AJ, where he dropped it into the bread basket, and he almost carried the dude in the end zone, to his credit, right? We heard about how much of after the catch, this guy is a monster. And again, he showed it today in doing exactly what we anticipated and what we thought we were getting from his acquisition to from the Tennessee Titans, right? You can watch that Tennessee Titans game and realize that Ryan Tannehill really missed him today. And thankfully we have him. Yeah. Thankfully we have him, because he is exactly what we thought he was, and he was a monster today. Yeah, the only quote-unquote negative thing, and again, not his fault, is he didn't get in the end zone himself, and that's it. And that's going to happen sometimes. But 10 for 155, that's a clip. That's a clip to start off your franchise debut.
Yeah, and speaking of starting off your franchise debut, not even a franchise debut, but starting off a final year and a contract year, a guy that I crush in this city, and rightfully so for years past. But I'll give credit where credit's due, and I think this is why you should always tune in to HUD Radio, because it's not an agenda, right? Miles Sanders had a great game today. That's the Miles Sanders I need to see. That's the Miles Sanders lowering the shoulder. That's the Miles Sanders looking for contact at times. If you're running back in the National Football League, there's got to be times that you're looking for contact. You put your foot in the ground and you get upfield. I thought he did a tremendous job of that. And the bigger thing is he held on to the football, finally got in the end zone. It's been a long time since Miles got in the end zone here. And 13 for 96 and 7.4 yards, an average per carry. I mean, you can't ask for anything more out of him either. So, I want to give props. I know Chuck commented in Miles going to have a big year if he stays healthy. I think we say that yearly, though, right, Chuck? Like nothing against your comment. I love it because it's spot on. But we always say it yearly, like if Miles. And you're 100% right, Chuck, because if Miles stays healthy with a quarterback that can run like Jalen, I think we know what kind of year he has. And that kind of year gets a guy paid. It's as simple as that. But we both agreed with the poll, and I expect everybody else did too. Go ahead, Greg.
No, Miles had a bit of a burst too for not knowing what his status was going into the game. Right, we were all press, all preseason. It was the hammy. He was out, hammy out, and of course, then he comes in and he shows some burst today, right? And that was nice to see from a guy who was dealing with a hammy and a groin injury or that type of leg injury all preseason.
No, absolutely. And the yards after contact, I thought he did a good job of today.
Absolutely.
As a whole offense rushing the football. I mean, that's what we talked about as advertised. 216 yards on the ground as a whole, 5.5 yards per carry. I mean, that's going to win you a lot of football games, and you're going to control time possession. Now, today was more even time in possession, right? Because your defense couldn't get off the field, and that's obviously a concern. And Steven says fire Gannon, and I get it. I'm right there with you. I don't like Jonathan Gannon at all, but I will give some things as a chalk up to week one and say, now listen, you got an offense that can score a lot of points coming in town Monday, and we'll preview that as the week goes on. But you got an offense that can score some points in Minnesota. I mean, we're going to find out if we clean some things up, right? Week 1, I'll chalk up to getting tired defensively, right? You know what I mean? Especially in the second half. And that's where we really couldn't get off the field was in the second half. Yeah. So I'll chalk some of that up. Just you know, I don't want to – these guys put a lot of work into their conditioning and stuff, but there's nothing like – there's nothing like playing the game. That's why we talk about preseason being semi-important to just get some reps. But health concerns are always a problem there, right? But you would like to see your defense maybe on the field for a total of 3 or 4 quarters through the preseason so their stamina is a little bit better week 1. And I think that stamina showed today. But our pass rush wasn't good enough. All right. I thought our secondary looked good at times. And listen, Jared Goff's a professional quarterback, so he's going to make some throws. But our rush defense was atrocious. I mean, flat out atrocious. You cannot. I mean, DeAndre Swift averaged 9.6 yards a carry. I mean, that's absurd. That's absurd. You had a guy go for 144 on your ass. I mean, listen, that's not been cleaned up since last year. And you went out and got a guy like Jordan Davis. You got Kaiser White. So when I look at you upgrading those positions, and I think the big killer was, and we'll find out the health of Derek Barnett, but Derek Barnett's a good run stopper. And losing him, Josh Sweat will get exposed in the run game. He just will. And you saw them run that outside a ton, and it get exposed, right? And I don't even need film for that. That's one time watching, and that's what happened. So there's things that clean up, obviously, but, a win's a win. So I'm not going to be here and be overly critical, but I would have fired Jonathan Gannon before the season started. Sean, I mean, I don't know if you have any room to talk. I mean, here you go, trying the troll. That's a win, dude. I don't care to give up 35 points. They still got out with a win, right? You still win a football game. You're not going to be talking about like, oh, how'd they win this game earlier on in the year? A win's a win, right? A win's a win. No, we're not sleeping on Swift or Williams. Nobody is, Jimmy. They're good. I'm just saying you can't allow a guy go for 9.6 yards a carry. I mean, come on, Jimmy. It ain't fucking Barry Sanders. DeAndre Swift's a really good football player. I wanted the Eagles to draft him. But don't tell me that he should average 9.6 yards a carry. I mean, come on. Let's keep it real. You want to tell me he averages 5.5 and has a good game? Sure. I believe he was going to have a good game. I didn't know what to think. This was a concern. Jonathan Gannon was a concern coming into this season. That was one of our 3 concerns. Obviously, Nick was one of them. I thought Nick did a good job week 1. I don't really have any big complaints. I thought our offensive coordinator did a good job week 1 for the most part, right? There were some questionable calls, like the 1 third down. We ended up scoring on 4th, but you do a QB rollout run. Like, I don't have time for that down with 10 yards, right? Because the field shrinks, right? And that play becomes really hard to score on at the NFL level with the speed. But listen, you played a tough football team. I told you guys this on Wednesday night. I told you they were upgraded. I told you they were better. I told you that they were going to take on the personality of the 15 goddamn former players they have on their coaching staff. I mean, they're going to take on some toughness and some personality, and you saw it today. Watch throughout the year. The Detroit Lions are going to be in a lot of football games. I'm not telling you they're winning games. I'm telling you they're going to be competitive, and they showed you some of their resiliency today. And listen, other guys get paid on the other side of the football too, right? But our defense wasn't good enough today. When you have a big lead like that, 17-point lead, I need you to get off the field one time, twice. Get off the goddamn field, or I will fire Jonathan Gannon by week 4. Because if this team doesn't go to where we want them to go to, he's going to be scapegoat 1. Because Jalen is who we think he is, Greg. All right, he is who we think he is. He made little strides today at times that I saw, but overall, like, he's going to run around, he's going to make plays, and we're going to run balls down people's throats.
Yeah, it's funny to think too that where this game was Detroit basically handed us 7 points with that onside kick, right? They went for that onside kick and essentially handed us 7 points. Like, imagine if they did it. Now, I'm not saying we still don't score, but it's just they handed us a short field at a time we were rolling, right? And that was that I think it was that second. It was that second that 17-point lead that we jumped up on. And that's the one where you take their momentum grab and you flip it around on them. That's the one where you have to then expand or at least hold that lead. You can't let that falter, right? Because you're right. They're gritty. They battle. They made this a closer game than it really should have been. And that showed today, right? And we talked about, you mentioned it too, not playing as much of the preseason. They had a lot of, if you watch Hard Knocks, they obviously went live. They played a lot of preseason football. How much of that game 1 being a half a second, right? Being a half a second late to a hole, and they're already by you, right? Or not being prepared. You talked about the stamina, right? It takes a lot. It takes a lot of energy and effort to go out and hit somebody, right? And then you got to do that over and over again. If you're not doing that in practice, you're not doing that in preseason, then it takes you a little bit to warm up to it. Now, week one, right? We opted for health, and we opted for the conditioning side of it, the mental reps, and hey, that's what we come out with. We come out with a victory, right? But now you're right. We got to turn it up. We got to turn it up again. We got a really good Minnesota Vikings team coming in here with a really good offense, a lot better offense than Detroit, and Detroit wasn't anything to laugh about.
No, and this offense obviously is way more explosive coming into town. And, I see a lot of people in the comments, Jonas, Jimmy, even John saying, we didn't get enough pressure on Goff. And John, that's something that's advertised as well. Like we're supposed to be a front that puts a lot of pressure on you. Not enough today. Steven says too many third down and long conversions for my liking. I agree with you, Steven. This has got to get cleaned up. There's too much talent on the defense. Like, it's inexcusable if this defense isn't a top 10 to 12 defense in football. It's inexcusable, right? It's totally inexcusable. If they're outside of that number, we're not going to be as good as we want to be. And the other thing is that guy's going to get fired because maybe he's not as smart as he thinks he is. Now, I did see more blitzing today, stuff like that. And some of it's on your front to win, man. As much as I'm putting stuff on Gannon, like, some of it's up to the money up front to win. And you got a lot of money up there. And there was not enough pressure. But I'll chalk it to week one. You give me a week two of no pressure, now we're starting to have a trend, right? And Martian, I couldn't agree with this more. I said it on Wednesday night, Greg, and I'll stand by it. Hassan Reddick should not be dropping back in goddamn coverage. He should be a hand in the dirt or in a three-point stance and always rushing the passer. Why do we got to get cute with this guy? This guy can get after the quarterback. Isn't that what we got him for? I didn't get Hassan Reddick to drop back in coverage.
No, absolutely. And I think a lot of the times that he did, we ended up giving up conversions for first downs because he's in a zone that he's not supposed to be in. That's not what he does well, right? And for a coach that comes out and says he's going to put his players in the best positions to succeed, regardless of what type of scheme that is, well, that's horse shit, at least game one.
You didn't get to go get a guy who's top 5 over the last, 2 years in sacks to have that guy dropping coverage. Like, I'm sorry. Who else on this line gets consistent pressure? Like, listen, I love BG. That's my guy, man. But we know the Achilles game. We know the Achilles, the year after the Achilles, nobody has their burst like they usually do. It's usually a 2-year injury before you're really to where you want to be at physically. Okay, but who else? Barnett? No, he's underachieved getting to the quarterback. Josh Sweat? Okay, at times, right? Fletcher Cox is getting older. Javon Hargrave, sure. I mean, I thought he left a lot to be desired in the run game. Jordan Davis, we know what we got Jordan Davis to do, essentially, and why we drafted a guy like that. But, I mean, come on, man. He is not – I'm not saying Hassan Reddick can't cover guys. I'm saying Hassan Reddick is a pass rush specialist and needs to be going to get the quarterback. All right? And if I see him dropping the coverage against Minnesota a ton of times, why? Why? I went out and got a guy like Nakobe Dean that's supposed to be able to cover tight ends and cover backs out of the backfield, right? That's one of his specialties coming out of Georgia, is sideline to sideline guy, right? Like, come on. Yep. Come on. Don, look at you. Become a YouTube member, fam. Help support A2D, $9.99 a month. Get your picks from Willie Vegas and Nate Moth every weekend. And the jersey giveaway that the wheel's going to start getting spun on either Sundays or Mondays starting next week. So become a member. But listen, I know a lot of people said it. Marcus, you can find Marcus on Pro Fan Talk every Thursday night. And he said with the injury to Barnett, hopefully they will keep Reddick on the edge. Marcus, have you heard what that injury is? I just didn't look it up yet. If anybody knows what that injury is. Yeah, I think he played well too in terms of Jordan Davis, Martian. He said he played well today and he could have helped the run game today, but he was barely in there. Yeah, there was times he was in there, but I don't think he was in there enough, especially when you're getting gashed, right? I saw Fletcher and Javon give up a ton when they were in the middle. But listen, again, week one, I don't want to overreact to week one way or the other. Joe, head coach candidate John Gannon showed out this week. Yep, he did. And yeah, Don, that's what he does. I mean, his legs are so lethal. Like, I don't want the guy not running the football at all, right? Me and Greg talked about this before we came on. I want Jalen to play to Jalen's strengths. I just want to see progress. And I saw some throws today that make me start to feel a little bit better, right? I would like to see it more consistently, but I saw some growth today. But I don't need you running 17 times because that worries me, and your chance of injury goes way up. Yeah. So I prefer him to not rush 17 times. And I'm not telling you like to do what you did to Donovan and keep him in the pocket. No, let him be him, but let's tone it down a little bit. We don't need designed QB runs. You understand? Like I'm all good with RPOs all day. And if that turns into 17 rushes, so be it. Make sense, Greg? But I don't need to design just QB rollouts like down at the goal line. Like, what are you doing? That's either a throw run option, or you don't call that play. Makes sense? Like, you had wide receivers blocking. Like, what are we doing? That's not college. But listen, guys are going to have some boneheaded play calls. Overall, you scored 31 points. I can't be critical of the offense this week. I can't. Detroit plays tough defensively. They have a lot of money tied into their defense in terms of picks. You know what I mean? So it's not like they don't have guys back there, right? In terms of cornerback position, in terms of their D line, like they've invested into their defense big time. At least I think they have.
I just see knee, Tom. There's nothing, no update prior or post game yet. Just a knee.
Martian, I thought the same thing, that Devontae looked upset, and then right after that, he was all jacked up when I think Boston Scott or Jalen got the first down to seal the game. I saw him freaking firing his arms, all excited.
Yeah, so. I mean, you're a competitor, right? The competitor in you wants the football, right? And I think he only had 4 targets, so even though he didn't have a catch, he wasn't even looked at a lot today. No. And the competitor in you, and he probably was open a lot more than those 4 targets, right? To your point about Jalen, maybe doing a little bit more of the unscripted run plays where that's where you get to your 17 as opposed to your 10, 12. Because again, we talked about that hit was scary. That hit he took, in the third quarter was scary. I thought he was going to be out for at least a play to get looked at. Maybe because of the multiple penalties, it allowed some time for him to clear his head. But that's what we don't want. We don't want him.
Keep talking.
Yeah, no, we don't want him to be in a situation to get a hit like that. Because if he goes down, there's a clear drop-off to Gardner-Webb, and we're not the same team with Gardner Minshew. And we don't want to be the same team, right? We want Jalen to be the guy. And yes, he had some really good throws today, I thought. And then, he came back to being Jalen Hurts the quarterback at times too. But what we don't want is him to open himself up to those hits on a regular basis.
Yeah, Pop, he took care of the ball today, and that's a big thing. No turnovers. Yep. So you do love to see that. And he did run when he needed to run. I thought some of those runs, like I said, I prefer you trying to pull up and make a big play, right, in the passing game. But, I don't know what's being shown, obviously on TV. We don't see what's downfield there. Matt Chatton, ATD member. What's up, ATD family? What's up, Matt? Appreciate you, brother. And Marcus says it's just listed as a knee injury via CBS Sports. So who knows? We'll probably find out more about that Monday and Tuesday.
Yeah,
on the severity of it.
I'm trying to look up the snap counts.
Yeah, that was a tough hit, Philly Sports with Bake. So shout out to Goddard and Pascal for getting in the Lions player's face after the hit. Yep.
Oh, I loved it from Pascal. I mean, you've seen that from Goddard in the past, right? This is our first time looking at Pascal in our colors, right? You know what I mean? And I absolutely loved that. Love seeing that from Pascal.
Yeah, it was close, Don. Moon. Did Jordan Davis play today? Yeah, he played. I don't know his exact snap count, but he definitely was on the field. Jimmy says Smith gave him 0 in fantasy. Yep, me too, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Me too. In that same league, I had Miles on the bench. Jake says, why does it seem like He never throws when he gets out of the pocket. He decides to run. And no one breaks open ever when he breaks the pocket. I agree, Jake. I think that's one of the strongest assets of breaking the pocket. You see some of the likes of
scramble.
I mean, look at all these quarterbacks that can move but are willing to keep their eyes downfield. You see the big plays in the passing game. So when you have that ability, I love when guys move and shake in the pocket, dictating on coverage, right? Because then you extend the play for 3 seconds. Somebody's probably getting open in that span, right? Now, that's just playing some backyard football. And I think the ability to play backyard football in this league is what a lot of these quarterbacks do, right? A lot of these really good ones do it. Talk about Allen, Mahomes, Herbert, right? And even a guy like Derek Carr to a point, just talking about some more pocket passer types, but they can still move. Stafford can move and shake to create extra time. So, the statue of Brady's aren't really around. Dak, you know what I mean? So you look around, a lot of these guys can break pocket and make big plays. I would say Kyler Murray, but he can't. But he has that ability, obviously, right? So, that's what a lot of these quarterbacks do. I mean, Burrow's another one. He struggled today, but that's what they're supposed to do. Yeah, Eric,
if you look at, look at the bomb that Baker ended up throwing to Robbie Anderson, right? You don't get wide open without having to escape pressure, escape, the pocket, but also keeping your eyes downfield. You know what I mean? And absolutely, I think there's a lot more, but I also think Jalen trusts his legs right now at this point in his career than he does his arm almost.
Yeah, especially on those plays for some reason. Yeah, I agree. I agree, Ren. He doesn't keep his head downfield. You can sort of see it when you're watching it live. Feels like his head goes down. So I'm right with you. Jonas, why do you think it's going to be a long season? I want your reasoning for that. I don't think it's going to be a long season. I think we're going to have some stressful football games, but I also think we're good too. I think we are what we thought we were. It's just defensively we got to clean some things up, right? I think that's when you really look at it on a surface. But I believe there's enough talent on the defense. But like we talked about, Hassan Reddick's got to be going after the quarterback, right? You can't drop interceptions like Darius Slade did today. You have to keep taking advantage of teams' miscues, right? And we did with a Bradbury pick. I'm not saying you need pick sixes every week, but when you have chances to take the football away, you have to take it.
Yeah, I think the one Slade missed, the one that hit him in the hands, that led to points. I think that led to the touchdown.
It did.
I'm on St. Brown. I think that was the same drive. So yeah, when you have a ball that hits you right in the hands, we need that one, and those are tough.
Yeah, especially up 17 at the time.
Yes,
it was. That game's over. That's a wrap. What's up, Kayvon? So what are your thoughts on Jalen?
I thought he played well. I see a lot of the same things that we saw last year. But I also saw, I don't think we saw that bomb to A.J. Brown last year, though, either. Right? He dropped that right in the breadbasket, right on the outside, right on the inside shoulder where only A.J. could get it. And that was perfect. Now, if we're being critical, if you leave that out 2-3 yards, he's walking in the end zone. But the completion, that was his best throw of the game. But in that same sequence, right, you had that great throw, and kind of luckily he threw it away or threw it bad, but you then skipped the ball to Kenneth Gainwell. He wasn't going to score anyway. The next play. And it's like you see the Jekyll and the Hyde of Jalen in a couple plays, right? It's almost the good, the bad, the ugly, right? And then the next one on third down, you get that ball batted down at the line of scrimmage. And we don't get in the end zone. We don't extend that lead. We get a field goal from the 4-yard line. And again, that's not all him. It's all a lot of that's play call, right? I don't think if he completes that pass to Kenny's not getting in the end zone. At the end, I think it was the end of the half. And so you're almost maybe that's why he spiked it, to your point. But I think on the day he only had 56% completion percentage. It's not great. You would like to see low 60s. I at least would like to see low 60s. It's not like he made a bunch of downfield throws to where they were high difficulty, right? lot of them were short passes and under, and behind the line of scrimmage. So we did see some growth, though. Like I said, I don't think we see that bomb to A.J. Brown last year. But I also think we saw a lot of what we did see last year show up, and that's fine. It's game one. We got a W game one. That's enough. But we're going to have to expand on what we do as a team, as an offense too, because we're going to be, at some point, we're going to be very easy. I don't want to say easy, but we're going to be very predictable. And if you're not able to get past the predictability, it's good. It potentially could come back to bite you.
Yes and no. Like, yes, predictable, but if you can run the ball at a clip like this, you're not predictable. You're a team that runs the ball well, and that's your strength too.
Sure.
But to your point is, you got to be able to throw the ball well enough from the pocket. And there were some good ones, and again, there were some ones you won back, but like definitely some progression, definitely some timing throws. Got the ball out, but yeah, the big thing is throwing on the run.
Yeah, and you would think we would see more of that because of how athletic he is and how much he wants to roll out. And yet we don't, and I almost want to see it. I want to see if it's there. You know what I mean? Like, what are we missing? You know what I mean? Like, what are we missing from this offense? Like, can we get some broken plays? Like, can I get Devontae Smith running down the yards, 20 yards behind the closest defender, right? Like Robbie Anderson. Can we get that every once in a while? Because those plays are fun.
I feel like we should see that more than we do.
You would think. Yeah.
And that's the big thing. But overall, good game. Like, overall, I don't have many. I don't have much complaints from our offense. They were as advertised. But again, when you talk about a defense that's supposed to be top 10 in that conversation, you need to get off the field. You can't keep allowing and sort of not blowing, because you didn't blow it, but 2 17-point leads, right? I got to take the ball away or get off the field on a third down to get my offensive football back with a 17-point lead, to let them do what they do, which is run the football. And our offense went away a little bit, obviously, in the fourth quarter, but you also scored 31 points. You got to expect some ebb and flow inside a football game, right? You're not going to score on every drive. That's just not realistic. So then it comes on the defense, and I'm very, very underwhelming performance from our defense today. But we talked about stamina, and we talked about some of those other things, and hopefully some scheme and some learning your personnel, and you can sort of clean some things up week 2.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest worry for me on the offense or on the defensive side of the ball, Tom, is it was a lot of the stuff we saw last year. Yeah. Right? It wasn't like it was anything new. Right? If you struggle with new things, then fine, right? You're new. I understand it. But it felt like we were watching last year's defense and this year's offense. In most of the game. Right? They couldn't get off the field, they couldn't get pressure, unfortunately, balls hit us in the hands and we can't catch it, although we do get the one tip drill, right? But like you play really good at one end and then really bad some other times. And that's what kind of worries me about the defense is you made you took an off season, spent a lot of money, spent a lot of resources, spent a lot of development and importance on this defense to then come out and show the same thing that you did last year. And that's my concern.
Absolutely. Everything you said, spot on. And so you got to come out and you got to show you're different. And the only thing that's not different is the defensive coordinator. But I'll give them week 1 before I really start roasting. You get to week 2, week 3, week 4, you cost me football games, then you're going to hear a lot more from us.
Well, and it's like you said, you didn't blow the game, but we also didn't cover. Right? For us that had the Eagles, you also didn't cover a game and you're up 17 points twice in the second half. Why you didn't blow it, there's no cover there. When you think up 17, that's an easy cover, right? You're counting that. You're counting that ticket. I didn't see the – oh, God.
Go ahead.
No, I didn't see the O-line look lost or shaken up at all. I thought the O-line played really well.
Yeah,
I think I think part of what Detroit's strength is their defensive line, especially when you had the number 1 overall pick. But in the draft, I think their defensive line is probably their best line, and because of the amount of resources that they've put into it, and they showed it today because their defensive line was really strong. But I thought our O-line played really. I thought they played fine. You can rush for 230 yards. How can you not be fine?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I thought there was just a couple times, but nothing like crazy, right?
Yeah.
San says, Tom, we got Jefferson coming into town next week. We're going to find out if it's just week 1 real quick. No, we absolutely will. And, I don't know what to expect next week. I'm not there yet. I'm still on winning this football game mode. But you got another you got a test coming in. So that test, when you have that coming in, you find out, what kind of preparation do you put in? What kind of adjustments do you make from week 1 to week 2? And the guys get a little bit more comfortable in their roles, and as your defense coordinator, is he willing to adjust?
And a little bit more talent on the balanced offense, right? I mean, if you think of the wide receivers that the Vikings have, they're more talented than the Lions. No shot against Swift and Williams, but Davion better than both of them. Right, and Kirk Cousins is an upgrade over Jared Goff. So you're going to get another balanced offense, but you're going to get a more talented balanced offense.
Yep. Don, my thoughts on the NFC East, like we talked about in our preseason show, I still don't think the Giants are any good, and I don't think Tennessee's any good. So, I just take that as like, they got to win. It's week 1, but I think Washington's going to be tough, and I know it's Jacksonville, but Jacksonville's big time upgraded. And they got a big win today. So, and they tried coughing that game away and they didn't. But, I think those teams, and, I don't know what to think of Dallas. I don't like Dallas as much as other people do. Right. But, I still think they're going to be okay. And us, I think it's going to be between obviously those 3 teams on who wins the NFC East. I don't think the Giants are in play for that. Sorry, Sean. Enjoy your week 1 win, but I don't think there's many of them coming across the bottom ticker as this season progresses. So, enjoy the 1 win you have. Yeah, Dotson's good. Yeah, we know Dotson's good, right? So, and Jimmy, Dalvin Cook comes to town next week. So, it's not just Justin Jefferson. It's Adam Thielen. It's Kirk Cousins who can throw the football around a little bit, right? And it's Dalvin Cook, right? So, how much, okay, in that locker room, or what's between your legs as a defense that you're okay with what happened to you on Sunday, even though you got out with a win? Like, you're okay with letting a guy go for those kind of chunks against you on a 9.6 yards a carry. You're okay with that, and that's where you sort of find out the toughness of your defense too, because guys should be mad about that, and you expect their guys are. He misses the field goal. This real life, dude. It's a freaking chip shot. Yeah, and Rager too, saying I don't care about that loser. We talked about this earlier, Carlos, but we'll talk about it again. He said, do you guys think Hurts ran it too much this game? Do you think we were just not prepared, or were the Lions just that good? I think a combo. First, we'll talk about Hurts. I would like it to be more of like the 12. Me and Greg talked about that, 10 to 12. But, it's week 1. We'll chalk it up. That's what you're comfortable with. But we like for you to make some plays outside the pocket, because we think that if you're moving outside the pocket, there should be some breakdowns. And I don't think he looks downfield enough. And that's my biggest critique of him. Like, I want you to move and shake, right? But when you're moving and shake, you don't always have to run. Like, you might have a wide receiver wide open. So, you gotta see if you can take advantage of those. In terms of our preparation, I think some of it's stamina week 1. And I think some of it's Jonathan Gannon. But you got to be able to stop the run a little bit. So as much as those things come in, you still got to be better.
Yeah, I know. There was a video out there of CJ walking through the tunnel, saying how great it was to get the first win, and then Lane Johnson right behind him goes, "Ugly as hell, but we got it." So I to your point a couple minutes ago about how does that locker room feel like they did, right? What's in that locker room? I think there's that sense of, hey, we got the W. That's all that matters. but there's also that sense of we got to clean it up because it wasn't pretty. That game shouldn't have been a 3-point game. So, yeah, I mean, it's definitely. I think it was the leaders in that locker room know what that game was.
Yeah, Bailey, you know us when we're going to talk Sixers plenty when they get rolling, but I mean, my expectation should be like everybody else's, extremely high. You know, we've upgraded a lot, so you know we'll have plenty of time to talk about the Sixers. Michael, you say that, but the NFL is sort of a weird league, so I want to go putting my paycheck on that he goes for 175. You know what I mean? I wouldn't be surprised if our defense comes and plays on Monday Night Football too. So, you know, but they got a good offense.
Kirk Cousins also doesn't play well in primetime games, so there's also that on the road as well.
Yeah, guys, I don't know why everybody thinks it's going to be such a tough season. I mean, Kaman's another guy. Like, I don't see the tough year. I see that we are what we sort of thought we were coming into the year. I mean, we're 11 and 12 win football team. You know, I think 12 is more of our ceiling, and 10, 11's totally realistic. There's a Dak pick. There's a guy we want to
no,
grab.
I mean, I obviously I was shocked to see him on the injury report as much as you didn't hear about it up until this week with the ankle. But obviously the Cowboys go as Dak goes, right? If he goes down, then there's nothing there. But yeah, I mean, I think now that the season's here, you know, we hit those 2 weeks where there was no football, right? We were all jazzing ourselves up because that's what you do, right? That's what you do as fans. That's what you do is you come into a new year and then you sit there and again, you watch that defense, you know, play like the same way they played last year, you know, and it wasn't at times up to par, you know, and I think that's where some of the guys in the chat are saying it might be a long year, just because you didn't see advances in the defense, even though we spent the money and the resources, you know, and the, you know, and the assets on, you know, on new pieces and stuff like that. But hopefully, as me and you have talked about, hopefully that's just week one, right? That's
But
week one we come out.
Yeah, but you've also saw, Greg, to that point, though, you've also saw an offense that looks to have gotten better, too.
Correct. Absolutely.
Especially at the wide receiver position and the skill position. So, I mean, you know, that still puts you in the 11 win category conversation in that range because your offense is better and you were a 9-win football team last year. And we know this defense is better than they played today on the ground. You know, you're going to give up you're going to give up yards in the air. That's just the National Football League, right? But it's the real winners are the ones that can get off the field on third down, and 2, stop the run. You know what I mean? That's the difference maker in the NFL because everybody's going to give up yards in the air at some point. That's just the way it goes, right? But can you stop the run? Can you hold teams to a $110 or under in today's game, right? Can you make them have to throw the football, right? And can you pin your ears back and go get it? I mean, with a 17-point lead today, you know, we had no sacks. No sacks. And there's, again, way too many resources up front for that to happen. And a big culprit is Jonathan Gannon because Hassan Reddick should be going after the quarterback on every down. I mean, it's comical that he's not. You know, I talked about it on Wednesday. I don't want to keep bringing up things we talked about earlier on the show either, but it's the truth. Like that's my biggest takeaway is that's ridiculous. And I said I would fire Jonathan Gannon on the spot if he pulled this shit on Sunday, and he did. So if you want to worry about him. That's the worry.
Absolutely.
And what's between the legs of your front four, too, to get the freaking stop the run a little bit. Because I told you, Hargrave and Sweat got eaten up today. Eaten up. Which tells me Josh Sweat isn't a starter in this league. Because starters play both ways.
Yeah.
You know? But Detroit was also what we thought they were, and they're tough. And I told you, Greg, they're going to be in every goddamn game.
Yeah, they are.
You know,
they're building off of what they went 3-3 in their last 6 last year, and we're a completely different team. And you know what they're trying to do. They are exactly what they were blueprinted to be. Right? They were tough. They were physical. They were gritty. Right? That was exactly what they were supposed to be. And it's our fault that it was that close. It wasn't anything necessarily they did. It was us.
Yeah.
It was us the reason it was that close.
Bobby says defense is completely overhyped, and let's be real, Hurts did not improve as a passer. Minnesota is going to roll over us next Monday. See, Bobby, I disagree. Like, is the defense overhyped week 1? Sure. But there's overreaction week 1 too, right? It's a real thing for a lot of teams around the NFL. Okay? It's really like, okay, now how do you start to play after this? Right? You got your week 1 cobwebs out. Do they make improvements? Well, we don't have them answers, but we got out with a win in week 1, and week 1s are always tricky. And I'm not saying Hurts improved big time as a passer in week 1. I'm telling you there were some throws that showed strides. That's it. And I'm not, his defense team. You guys know this. So I'm far from his defense team. But I got to grade him off a win too, right? No matter where it is. It's on the road. If it's Detroit at home and you sneak out, right, I think you have some more concerns, okay? But in their building, a sold-out place, an electric atmosphere for them, and week 1, you're going to get their best fight and their best attention to detail. And that's what you got this week. And you withstood it. I mean, I think there's something to be said about withstanding that too. Like, I'm usually the guy, I got no problem being negative about stuff, but there's got to be something that said that you got out with a win too against a gritty football team that we talked about was going to give you a dogfight. I mean, we did it on Wednesday. We talked about it.
Yep.
And I said, if we are who we think we are, we're going to score 30 plus points. And we did that. We just didn't do enough defensively. That's the key. So if you guys want to be nervous, okay, be nervous about it. But there's also a lot of money over there too. So you'd expect it to start to come together better than it was on Sunday. That doesn't mean you can't have concerns, because there is concerns. But the concerns 1-0 are a lot better than concerns 0-1.
Oh, yeah.
And road wins are always better, right? We got to understand that too. It's harder to play on the road than it is at home, especially week 1s.
Micah Parsons is such a problem.
Oh, yes. Lions Talk with Micro Mike by Chat Sports. We fought. Yeah, you guys absolutely did. It's a tough football team. We talked about it when we came on. I mean, you got like 15 former NFL players on that staff. I mean, it's a lot of guys who relate to players, and I think you saw it. I think you saw the fight today and the resiliency that group has, and they're going to be tough on everybody this year. They really will. Yep. They're going to be absolutely tough. Thanks for checking in, Micro Mike by Chat Sports. We won't see Don again. They'll be over there. Taylor talked about Micah Parsons. I mean, that's my only Justin Jefferson. That's why I still lose sleep. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's why I still lose sleep over what happened in that draft, is because you could have Jefferson and Micah Parsons. Right?
Because you had to go back-to-back because you missed, right?
Yeah, now Jonathan Gannon probably would make him cover everybody, and he would never rush the passer like Hassan Reddick. But you went out and got that sort of mistake this year, right? Because you sort of made up for all the mistakes by A.J. Brown, Hassan Reddick. I'm not saying Hassan Reddick is Micah Parsons, but I'm saying the motor to be able to get after the quarterback is very similar. But when you don't allow a guy to go get the quarterback and you make him drop back, I think that's overcoaching. I think that's getting cute. And that's my issue with Mr. Sunglasses inside Jonathan Gannon. So if there's somebody like, lock your horns on, that's who you lock them on. But I don't think this defense is going to hold us back from getting to 11 or 12 wins, because I think they're going to be good enough as the season moves on, because the talent will overtake the coaching, hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah, congratulations, Blue City Empire Sports. I mean, your Giants got a dub. Let's go. I mean, Tennessee stinks, but that's fine. That's a good win for you guys.
You've lost suicide pick.
Yep, you lost a lot of football games down there. And I hate the Giants, but I'll give you guys credit. Maybe Brian Dable brings in a little bit better of a culture, but week 1, right? Week 1. So, we'll see if the Giants are improved. We'll have that conversation by week 4. We'll start to have an idea. You know what I mean? Andrew says he's still not sure about our coaches. I would be sure about Nick Sirianni. I like Nick. And I know I didn't like the rock, paper, scissors at the beginning, but I do like Nick. I think he's genuine. I think players like him. So if players like him, I like him, right? And I think he does a good job. I do. Now, again, the defense side of the football, I got problems. I think Jonathan Gannon is the biggest dry jock in the country. Like, I don't think there's a more missionary cat than Jonathan Gannon. He'll really he'll really say, "Hey, honey, just no lights on, just lay there. I don't even want to hear your voice. Like, don't make a noise. Don't make any noise." That's Jonathan Gannon. And then that's a weekly thing. Like Jonathan Gannon has sex the same night every week. It's like planned. Like, hey, 9:00 on Friday, honey, I'll see you. You know, I want you to wear the same clothes every week that I have to
leave
take
the lights
off.
off. Just come on into the room.
Yeah, leave the lights off. I don't even want to see your face. That's what he says. But
Andrew, that last part of that statement, though, Andrew, they seem happy just to skate out with wins. But that's the NFL, though, right? That's the NFL. I mean, we talked about 2017, 2018. Hey, just get to the locker room with a win. Just get to the locker room with a win. Everything else can be fixed. So
absolutely, Greg.
I hear you because I'm usually one of those skeptical win guys. Hey, we won, but we did this. Hey, we won, but right, this happened. But at the end of the day, a win is a win. And in the NFL, that's all that matters, right? Is there things that, as we talked about in the first 50 minutes, right? Is there things that we're concerned about? Is there things that we're worried about? Is there things that we would like to see different? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, even with all that, we came away with a win, and that's most important. We're going into week 2, 1-0, right? Yeah. And then that's all we got to look at.
And listen, and you're right, Greg. And then the part to Andrew that they seem happy coaches wise. It's just with just a win. Well, wins keep jobs. Wins get you contract extensions. Wins keep you in the league. So I mean, I would hope there are wins. Like, listen, I coach travel sports, right? And I coach high school sports. Greg coach high school sports. Like, dude, wins are wins. Wins are easier when you win. It's easier to fix problems than when you lose. And I'm the biggest believer in that. When you're losing, you start to create a culture can leak. A bad culture can leak in real quick, and then it's hard to fix mistakes. But when you get out 1-0, more people believe, more people buy in. So week 2, attention to detail is greater. You understand? And that's the biggest thing. That's what we talked about in 2017, right? That, hey, I don't care. We had some ugly wins in 2017 too, right? And I used to come on and say, listen, it doesn't matter, right? Because you have a culture of winning football games. That's what the culture needs to be.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not about like, oh, I got to win like the Kansas City Chiefs do. I got to be electric and
every flawless.
Yeah. There's other ways though to be tough and win football games and grow throughout the season. So I'm just a believer in getting in the locker room and wins. I don't care if it's 2-0. I don't care if you hit a grand slam, right, like and a walk off. Like I just don't care how you do it. I don't care if you do it on somebody missing a field goal, right? And you get out of a win like that, like the Giants did. Like they're all the same.
Yeah,
they're all the same. You go win 34-10, it's the same. Yeah, you're gonna feel better about things, but by the time week 2's over, you don't remember how you won week 1. In reality, so if you go 2-0 next week, say, right, and you beat the Vikings, you're after 2 weeks, you're not saying like, oh man, we're 2-0, but we don't look right. No, you're gonna say you're 2-0. Like every team's gonna have question marks. Shit, the only team that doesn't have a question mark walking around the NFL right now is probably the people out there, the national pundits, is probably Buffalo and Kansas City, right? Like, yeah, they got no question marks, and they're flawless. Everybody else got question marks. So come on, it just doesn't work like that.
I was going to give Sirianni some shit today, but I didn't realize there was a huge contingent of Eagles fans right behind the bench. Because right at the end of the game, he started like pumping himself, pumping up, and I'm like, "Come on, man, act like this isn't your first year, this isn't your first win." But then I realized there was a whole bunch of Eagles fans right behind the bench. I'm like, "All right," he was pumping those Eagles fans up. I was like, "All right, I'll give him a pass on that one."
Yeah. Sorry, I wanted to read. Yeah, Chris, great game by you guys today, and you did give us you gave us a scare, and you essentially, like Greg said, like we don't know if we score on that, but the onside kick came back to bite you guys a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So it is what it is. Ryan says Lane was visibly angry. We talked about this earlier on. He yelled that shit was ugly, and he likes that. And right, that's the other side of things is like we have leaders in this locker room, right? And we still do. We still do have those key leaders. So I expect things to get cleaned up week 2. My gut reaction is that's a big win by Minnesota today. Okay? That's a big win. They'll lose Monday night.
Yeah. And even though Green Bay's depleted on the offensive side of the floor, at least with the wide receiver position, they're still the big bad Green Bay Packers 2-unit division, right? You know what I mean? Like they're still up until this year, they're still the head of that division. I think it's going to change this year, but you still going into there, and it's still Green Bay.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you, Andrew.
Andrew,
yeah,
thanks, brother.
And it's a letdown, in my opinion. It becomes a letdown because it's a big bad wolf, essentially. Martian, my thoughts on Hutchinson, I thought he was all over the field. So, I mean, I saw the motor. I saw what make him that pick. Like, I had no problem with that pick. I just wanted taking him one. That's my only thing, and they didn't. Because Jacksonville got one. So
yeah, and he got a pick today. Carson went special right there with that pick.
Yep. But Jaguars are much improved, like we talk about when we circle the leg. Washington's much improved because they at least have a quarterback. I'm not telling you he's a Pro Bowler. They at least have a competent starter, isn't a Heineke. I mean, that's not going to win you football games. No disrespect to the kid. I think he's tough as nails. Well, Bill, I mean, some of these week ones, though, I think are very telling. San Francisco 49ers, for one. Granted, the conditions were horrific, but I think Trey Lance,
that's tough, but I agree.
I do think he stinks. So I think the Niners take a step back this year, even though nobody else believes it. And I told you guys, and I'm not, listen, I get plenty wrong, but I thought the Bengals with the Super Bowl hangover would hurt them this year, and it showed. I mean, that's a game they got to win.
That's five turnovers.
5 turnovers for Joey Cool, and I love Barrow. But it's just the way the league works, right? And we've seen it for years, Bill. They're a really good football team. They'll be back next year if they're not this year, right? Like, they'll be a playoff team again next year. But that hangover is a tough thing to swallow. Green Bay, I don't know about, right? I mean, their rookie wide receiver drops a wide-open touchdown early on in that football game, and that game could have been completely different, right? And that game went south on Green Bay quick offensively. So the loss of Devontae Adams is going to hurt the Packers for a little bit. I still think they're good, though. I still think as long as you have Rodgers, you're going to be good. But not going to, for the Packers, I wouldn't necessarily overreact to week one. I'll just say, yeah, we knew we were going to have some issues on the outside, and it's showing, right? Brady, what a ball. I mean, at 45 years old, is this real life? I mean, guys dropping it in buckets at 45 years old. I mean, it's so goated. Have a seat, Giselle. All right? Have a seat. Let the guy do his thing. Let the guy do
Let him do what he does.
Don't be that. I understand you want him out. Don't be that. Let us keep enjoying the greatness, because that is a dime piece.
I haven't seen it yet.
But, Bill, I hear you, because you can't overreact, because, like, the Giants won, right? We know the Giants aren't that good of a football team. Colts tied, but I don't think the Colts are good. I think Frank Wright's underachieved there in Indianapolis, and today's more proof of it, right? The genius Frank Reich, who I got all the love in the world for Frank for that Super Bowl, but the people tried to give him all the credit, like he was the mastermind. Okay, he struggled everywhere since, right? Doug did more with less of a team today than Frank did with Indy, right? And all things being equal,
and Doug tried to give the game away too. He went for an early 4th down. He went for an early 4th and goal when they were like, field goal would have put them within 1 score. And it was early in the game. And then to their credit, they fought back. But I'm like, Dougie P doing Dougie P things. Look at Julio Jones, too. I just saw that throw. Like, they got Julio playing like 2015 Julio.
Well, that's what happens. What happens when you got a great quarterback and you don't have Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah.
So, it helps. I'm not like saying Tannehill's horrendous. He's not Tom Brady. So, and if Julio is healthy, he's going to be a problem. Yo, Jay, new member, Jay Harrison. What's up, brother? Appreciate it.
Jay, thanks, brother.
Member. Told you, that's the way to help support HUD Radio, guys. $9.99 a month. Get your picks on the weekends from Willie Vegas and Nate Moss. And obviously, we read all your comments quicker because we see them. They pop up better in the feed. And 2, we start jersey giveaways next week for all our members. The wheel's back, baby. The wheel is back. Welcome to the wheel, Jay. 2 members, Don. Yup, you were one of them, baby. You were one of them. Let me get to some more. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Yeah. Maniac Matt. turn inside, but punting looks. I thought like we caught the ball on punts, right? Like let's just talk about the positives, right? I thought Covey or whatever his name is. I thought he caught the football, right? He didn't look like his butthole was clenching on punt returns, right? And I'm good with that. Catch the football, don't turn the football over. And I agree. I thought we punted well. We don't talk about special teams a lot. And Zach McPherson, sorry, he was ready for the onside and made a good play on it, right? So I mean. All aspects have to help you win football games, and today that's what happened. I mean, today was a team win in different ways because, like, okay, the defense struggled in the second half, big time, but they still had a pick six in the first half, right, or in the beginning of the second half, whenever it happened, and that's a big, right? But they had other opportunities to get off the field, and they didn't do it, and you got to hope that that's just a week one thing.
And special teams, I 100% agree because I miss a good special teams, right? Miss a good kickoff, kick return, but the special teams has just been so depleted throughout the league, right? To your point, Tom, as long as we're not turning the football over on kicks and we're doing what we're supposed to do, that's as best of the special teams as you're going to expect anymore, right? Days gone are the days of the Devin Hesters of breaking kicks off at any given time. It just doesn't happen as much anymore. And that sucks because they're exciting. They're fun.
No, they are. They absolutely are. It's always a good time when you take one to the house. So now like I said, now you're just more at can you catch the football?
Yeah.
Yeah, can we hold on to that? Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you.
I do like the intrigue though of Britton Covey though. I do like the intrigue because he showed he was able to do it at the college. And I think part of and maybe part of our outlook on special teams is we haven't had anybody like that before, or at least recently. We've had guys back there that have speed, right, or have done it before, but we haven't really had that guy that's been almost quote unquote been proven in a long time. I'm intrigued to as we go further if Britton stays on the roster and continues to be that guy, what he could do every once in a while.
Yeah, and Don, about the Saints, I mean, beginning of the year, I didn't think they were going to be dangerous, and part of that was a little agenda because we don't want them to be good because we have their pick. But the other side of it is, today they showed you. I mean, granted it's the Falcons, but they still won a football game, right? Slant guy, so he does his slants. Oh, he has two TDs today, right? Jarvis Landry had a big day. Jameis sort of got comfortable after the first half a little bit, right? So, and we think their defense is pretty solid. So, I think they're good. Dangerous, I don't know. I mean, I think there's people out there that think they're really good, but I think they're good. I think they're very good. They're going to compete for that division. I think the Bucs are better, but I mean, they have weapons offensively, right? They absolutely do. With Michael Thomas back and you get Jarvis Landry, I mean, they're different. They're different. Yeah. So it's really up to Jameis. Did Jameis take care of the football? Today he did. So, today 2 touchies, no picks.
Such an underwhelming headline, too, from ESPN. It was like, Michael Thomas slow in his return with 2 catches, left out on the headline that they were 2 TD catches. Like, those are pretty big catches.
Yeah.
Not just like 2 5-yard slants. Oh, they're pretty big touchdowns.
Yeah, pretty big. Early thoughts next week, Marsh, and I think the Vikings have a little bit of a letdown. Their defense is good, sure, but it's also against a wide receiver core that's like nowhere near the level of what we have. Obviously,
they didn't have to worry about them.
Yeah, a better quarterback, obviously, in Aaron Rodgers. But I think we bring problems to teams because we can run the football. I mean, we're going to be a problem for everybody because we can run it. Can Jalen make enough big plays with his arm? Today he did, right? Today he made enough big plays with his arm, right, Greg? Can you continue to make enough big plays with your arm? If he does, we're fine. And Dylan says, Gannon makes him miss Schwartz. I completely agree. Everybody thought Jim Schwartz was like, I hate Jim. No, I actually miss Jim. As soon as I saw this guy schemes, I was out on him. So I could do without. No, Kevon, I think the Niners stink. Sorry. I think the Niners absolutely stink this year.
I'm with you.
Unless Trey Lance is a stud or good enough. I just don't think he is yet. Doesn't mean he can't be one day, but right now I think he's a little bit butt cheeks.
Early line, Eagles -3, which isn't a shock. I mean, you're talking about a Monday night. Is it Monday or Sunday night?
Monday
night, yeah. Primetime game at home. So Eagles -3, 48.5 is the over-under. Is the early line.
Okay. Yeah, Carson played well today. Bailey, Nfc East quarterback ranking so far. Well, I mean, Dak's down with Daniel Jones, so it's really between Jalen and Carson right now, right? And I would probably give Jalen the nod just because he didn't turn the football over.
Yeah.
Right, I got to factor that into it.
Carson threw 4.
He threw 4, but how many total yards did he have throwing?
Oh, look. Yeah.
What was his total yardage? Because, I mean, Jalen had, 223 in the air, I think it was, and 90 on the ground. So he pretty much combined for 243 in the air, 90 on the ground. So that's over 300. 3 what?
313. But he had two picks, though, to your point. He had 2 picks.
They're right there in terms of total yards. He scored 4 times in the red zone, right? And no interceptions. So I would give the nod, and this is me being fair, right? Sure. I would give the nod week 1 to Jalen. He had a better week. I'm not saying, he threw the ball overall better than Carson did, but no turnovers. Yeah. He rushed for 90 yards. He had over 300 total yards, which is what Carson had. So, I mean, Carson had a really good week, right?
I forgot about the second INT from Carson.
Yeah, but when you don't turn the football over and your team gets out with the win, you have the same amount of yardage per se, and you come away with 4 touchdowns in the red zone, you had just good of a week, if not better.
I mean, QBR rating, Jalen was at 64, and they had Carson at 46 for QBR rating. So you can even just go by that, right?
Yeah, because the picks kill him.
Yep.
But no, I would give Jalen the leader in the pack right now. Unless Dak has a big little comeback up his sleeve here.
Big second half. I got the overs. Come on.
But I told everybody Washington's the biggest scare for me this year. Like, they're bigger scare to me than Dallas is. And you heard me say, Greg, I'm not puffing my chest. I just think when you put a guy in the corner and tell him this might be last chance you get the best version of him in week 1. I think he got what Carson Wentz really is. Okay. An ability for big play. He's going to have some things that make you scratch your head. But I think Washington overall, the football team, is better than what Indianapolis has. I mean, Indianapolis has Jonathan Taylor and a bunch of guys at the wide receiver position. They really do. They don't have a dude. Where Washington has some dudes. Doxson and McLaurin can flat out ball. So, and they have a good running back in Antonio Gibson. So, I mean, it's a great spot for him. And they have a good defense that's very similar to what he had in Indy. But I think this football team now is better, and I think Ron Rivera overall is a better head coach than Frank Reich is. And that's not a shot at Frank. I'd put him right underneath Ron. You know what I mean? I think Frank's a good coach. I just don't think he's as good as Ron Rivera is. But
I don't think there's a big argument there.
But that's their biggest fear in this division is going to be Washington. That's going to be the dogfight. We assumed coming in it was going to be Dallas. I wasn't sold on Dallas this year. They got to show me that they've changed. And right now, I mean, week 1, they're showing me that they're the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah. And the one thing, too, when you look at our schedule, I'm glad when you talk about Washington, I'm kind of glad that we get them early in the year so that if there is any growing pains that they're going through with a new quarterback and a new system, that they're hashing them out early in the year. Because you're absolutely right. You don't want to see them, guys. You don't want to see that team in week 16, 17, 18. You don't want to see them, right? I'm glad that after week 7, we're done with the formerly known as the Redskins, right?
Jay, enjoy yourself down there in 2 weeks. Let's get a dub down there.
Let's go, Jay.
Yeah,
St.
Brown
out of the stadium, brother. Stay safe.
The Lions bailed us out with some drops today too, right? I mean, they had some drops open. With guys running open. So, you had some of that luck go your way too. And sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, right? Overall, and the Eagles are 1-0, and really that's all that matters to me. Yeah, we always take over FedEx, don't we? Don't we, Jay? Yeah, Dylan, I'm worried about Gannon next week too. I just think when you talk about the Vikings, they could have a little bit of a letdown next week. And then we should be a little bit pissed off defensively. So maybe that evens itself out, and our defense has a really good game. Well, go beat them for us, Don. Says the Lions got Washington next week.
Let's go.
Yup, and Cowboys
You guys at home or away, Don?
Probably away, if I had to guess.
I could look it up myself.
Well, maybe not, because Washington was home today, so who knows? Mark, I thought Epps had a good game today. I thought early on he was all over the football field. He had a lot of short tackles in the open field. I mean, he had some misses and stuff, but I thought early on our D-backs were flying around the football, even in the tackling, even in the open field tackling. So, that guy, we got away from that a little bit, but I thought he had a good game.
But I think though, Mark, you're spot on. Where he probably does lack is the coverage, right? And I think you did see that a little bit today. Again, though, is that week one, right? Is that not playing much in the preseason, or is that just not being very, very at the upper echelon of the safeties, right? Because obviously we're kind of filtering through guys back there. But he was one of the guys that was kind of a mainstay throughout the preseason and through practice down there. So I'm good with him there. I just do think that if he does lack in any area, it's definitely going to be the coverage.
Yeah, for sure. And Mr. Wing, I agree. A lot of bad QB play this week. And I think that's something that's chalked up to week one too, right? A little bit of it. I'm not saying a ton of it, right? But enough. Don't you guys agree? You guys.
Home against the Commanders next week, they are.
Just me and you. But
no, I completely agree with Mr. Wayne there. I was going through some of the games and I'm like looking at some of these stats and I'm like, holy crap, there was a ton of just terrible quarterback play. And with teams that scored some points. It's not like these teams didn't score any points in some of these games. Now, I'm going to chalk up the San Fran and Chicago game to those terrible conditions.
Yeah, that's why people are pitching that they want a dome. Well, why would you not want a dome in Chicago?
Yeah,
like you want to play in those conditions. It's stupid to play in those conditions.
Well, just even the NFL, just chalk it up. Hey, game's right now.
Yeah,
when you're squeegeeing grass, and you saw some of the videos that were coming out from the city, just say, "Hey, we're going to push this. We're going to push this back to tomorrow, right? We are doing it for a virus, right? You know what I mean? Like, why can't we keep some of those, some of that flexibility that you had, obviously, with what we went through the last 2 years, 3 years? Let's keep some of that flexibility for a scenario like this. Like, that was unplayable today. And I have no horse in the stable. You know what I mean? I could give two craps how Trey Lance and Justin Field looks, but that's just terrible.
It's unplayable, and they should have did that. And that's why Chicago wants it done. So that's where we're at. I'm a little concerned with guys not getting the football today, but I also think that evens out, Dylan, right? In terms of getting everybody involved offensively. I think you'll see more of that as the season goes on, though. I think you can look around the league and see a lot of guys like really targeted their main guy more than anybody. But AJ also got whoever their second corner is on him today, where Devontae got locked up by what's his face,
Okudah.
So you gotta look at that too as some of like, hey, the other guy's going to win those one-on-ones because he's a number one versus number two. So some of that I think is just designed to get the ball to AJ per se, but. I would like to see Devontae targeted a little bit more in Dallas. But, again, when you win, guys will stay happy, right? Now, you don't want no catches. Guys won't stay happy week after week. But I think they'll do some things to make sure, and some bubble screens, stuff like that they get Devontae Smith the ball next week.
Definitely. It's always going to be like a pursuit of it, right? It's almost going to be like, all right, you got nothing this week. We're going to come out and make it a point next week. Probably first 2 or 3 balls go probably to Devontae. I would almost guarantee it.
Yeah, well, one of the first ones did today. A couple early balls went his way at least.
We talk about Marcus Epps. 10 total tackles, 8 solo, 1 tackle for loss. I don't know what else you want from your starting safety. That seems like a pretty good day right there.
Yeah, he had a good day.
Yep.
Yeah, Bill. I mean, Rodgers had a pick, and his team scored 7 points, and he said that's my points where it hurts. He didn't turn the ball over, and he marched on the field twice after a Lions score. I think we just get better. Yeah, I think he did get better. I think he showed some signs of getting better, and that's what we want. And I think some of these big plays, Devontae and Quez, are going to come. I do. I do believe the kid's willing to learn and willing to get better, right? Bobby, you're not on an island here. I don't think that kind of play wins in the playoffs either. But he said he thinks Hurts was good today. He just doesn't think that kind of play wins in the playoffs. No, you can run it 10 times in the playoffs, but you want to run the ball as a football team well, and you got to make enough big plays in the passing game, which I think he did today, though. I think he had some big plays in the passing game. I think there was some meat on the bone for more, but I thought it was a good start. Yeah, Bailey, I can say that right now. I mean, Jonathan Gannon is my crumb of the week. He just it because he's just a loser, in my opinion. Mark, what was the 18 late hits on Jalen before the penalty? Yeah, I don't know. It looked like he got hit a couple times where he was already down on the ground, right? And no flags. So at least they got the one right.
Yeah, the one that could have been dangerous. Yeah. Thank God it wasn't.
Well, I mean, Devontae essentially had one catch today and it was called back. And to Dylan's point about the deep ball to Brown, like I feel like he can throw the deep ball, Dylan. My biggest concern is the out, right? And he threw a strike to Devontae today. And it was on a rope and it was on time and it got called back, right? Got called back for holding, I think, or Lane was like a illegal lineman downfield for some reason, right? And it got called back. You guys remember that?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I do remember that. Yeah, it was the line downfield.
Yeah, it was an out downfield, like maybe like 12, 15 yards, something like that. And Devontae got a first down and got called back. But that's the kind of throw I needed to see him make, and he did. So, I mean, granted, it doesn't count, but at least it shows me, like, the ability to do it. So, I mean, Devontae should have had at least one catch today, but it's not like he wasn't targeted, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's one thing if you have 0 targets and you're sort of mad. I mean, I know he didn't have a bunch. He had – I have to see the whole thing. He had 4 targets. I mean, I'd like to see him have a little bit more than that. But, I mean, him and Dallas and Gainwell, 4 targets outside of AJ's 11. So –
right.
Or, sorry, 13.
Sorry, I just saw a hot dog that the Tennessee Titans are offering at their games. It's called the Titan Dog. It's probably, it looks like it says called a daddy dog. So I'm guessing it's a foot long. I don't think it's a foot long, but it's a little bigger than a regular. Barbecue sauce, cheddar cheese, grilled onions, jalapeno, bacon, and daddy's secret sauce.
Wow. Well, daddy's secret sauce.
That looks aggressive. Imagine trying to eat that in the stands. Like, there's not enough room in the seats to eat a meal like that.
No, it's too messy.
Yeah. Wow. So some of the things that these stadiums think about when they create their menus is like just let's go back to basics.
Regular hot dog's good.
Yeah, regular hot dogs. Let's go. Chicken fingers and fries. Let's go.
All right. So Mark says, I'm not as worried. I'm not worried as much about Hurts' arm talent as I am his decision making and his ability to see the field. I think he has the physical tools. It's the mental up for the debate. I think him seeing the field comes more in the rollouts, but I agree with you. I do. I mean, there's still some question marks for sure. Mm-hmm. Sure, but we got out with a win. And he showed some steps in the right direction. Saying I could see a shootout versus Minnesota. I mean, I could. I'm not going to sit here after Jonathan Gannon week 1 and tell you he's going to shut him down. But you got to put pressure on Kirk Cousins and you got to make him to make bad decisions and hope you can get out with a win. and you can't turn the football over again. And I think that's the biggest takeaway.
Yeah, I mean that I completely agree. I was that of everything was a huge takeaway today, just in general. I mean, just Jalen. Like we didn't turn the ball over. Did not turn the ball over, and that's going to get you wins, even when it gets close like this.
Yep.
So much for Leonard Fournette being overweight and out of shape, huh?
Right. Yeah, Jay. I mean, he says, do you think the lack of tackling that we saw is a product of soft practices and not going hard practice? Maybe a little bit, for sure. I mean, I know that was something we all talked about last year at the beginning of the year. So I agree to it. I agree it's something, and it's something really around the league too, because I think you see it all over, right? Especially week one, because everybody's sort of doing it in a way. Mark says, also think that even if he can't throw, he's still finding this out to watch. That run on 3rd and 15 killed the Lions, and he does it with ease. Yeah, he does.
He definitely has those intangibles. That's for sure.
He does read that stuff quick. Bank says, we got no pass rush. It's becoming alarming. Well, I mean, we went out and spent a lot of money on a guy who can pass rush, but for some reason they want to drop him in coverage, Hassan Reddick. So, that we can ask Jonathan Gannon those questions. I don't know if anybody asked him in his post-game presser, but if I was in there, if I was media credentialed, that'd be the first question I asked him. Do we think it's smart to be dropping a guy who's top 5 in the league in sacks the last 2 years? You think it's smart to be dropping him in coverage when we can tell we have a little bit of a pass rush issue? I would like to hear his answer on that. I don't know what that would be.
Are you going to give you some company answer? Well, we feel like he could do a lot of things well. Blah, blah, blah. We try to get him in space. Hold on, we put my sunglasses on in the press conference room.
Yep, that's him. That's him. Brady with a deep ball. Oh, actually, good play.
Flycast, I agree to a point, but we also have to chalk up a lot of that running game is because of Jalen Hurts. Obviously, he had 90 yards today himself, so we can't totally take him out of the running game. So yeah, I hope the passing progressions continue to improve, and he gets better that way. But we can't take him out of the running game and still think of it the same way. Right? I mean, he's a huge part of what we do on the ground, and we want him to do that. I just would like maybe 5 to less carries. Oh, Perriman, catch the ball. It's gonna be a long half of field goals to get to the overs. Jeez, crackers.
Right.
And I teased them down. I only need to get to 43. Come on, boys.
Yeah, Don. I mean, I read about Cincy for a week. We'll see if I stay right about him all year. Marsh says after we got the lead, Goff and the Lions look like a well-oiled machine. I wish our offense could score without Gannon knowing. Yeah. Dylan says, what player y'all biggest letdown today? Who did you expect more from? I probably expected Devontae to do more today, but I mean, AJ sort of took those targets, right? So, that's okay. I expected a little bit more from our defense, right? I think we can all agree with that. I don't have a specific player. I would say our front sort of let me down today. And as a unit, I expected more from our defense. So, our offense, that's sort of got me what was exactly what I thought they would be.
Yeah, I mean, you essentially have his stats. I mean, he scrambled for that one first down, but you essentially have a statue in Jared Goff, and we were only able to get to him once, right? That's a problem. So I agree. It would probably be somewhere on the defensive line, in where they underwhelmed, and that's probably really it. I mean, other than that, you're right. You talk about Devontae or even Dallas being a little bit more active, but when you have a guy go off like like AJ did, then it's just going to fall into place, right? You know what I mean?
Yep, for sure. Kavon, I don't know how many snaps Nakobe had today. Well, I would think not a lot.
It wasn't a lot, no. I'm waiting for the stats to the snap counts to come out. We'll probably get that tomorrow. But because I was trying to look earlier for how many true Jordan Davis Jordan Davis had. How many snaps that he had, because
it
wasn't a ton either, right?
Kaiser White showed out, Mark says. Yeah, I thought he had a good game for sure. 40 Boy says he reported a bot. He deserves a wrench. Don's right. Become a member.
He was. 40 Boy was for a little bit.
Okay. Rob says a lot of guys played well. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Listen, it's a week 1 win in a hostile environment that's sold out week 1. A lot of hype surrounding Detroit in terms of
only a 5-yarder
in the city that they expect to be better, right? And more competitive. And they showed that today. And they showed some of the resiliency. Yeah, I don't know how that's a 5-yard penalty.
I mean, he didn't even let the guy land. That's an automatic 15.
Yeah, and he took a helmet into his sternum. So I don't know how that's. Yeah, Red. I gave him credit early on the show. So I want to make sure to, go back and listen. You know me, Red. I crush him when he deserves it, but I thought he ran hard today. I thought he was lowering his shoulder well today. Thought he was looking for some contact, and he had a great game and the biggest run of the day. So you haven't heard anybody, but I promise you I did.
Yeah, we definitely did, Red.
An hour ago.
And absolutely warranted. Yeah, he played well, and like I said, it was he had a burst that you weren't sure was going to be there. When you came out of camp and preseason with what was told leg injuries, so it was good to see that burst as well.
Yeah, Red. I know you're not talking about me. I just want to let you know that we talked about it. There was some credit given in the chat too earlier on, for sure. And let's see if he can stay healthy, like Bill said. And that's the biggest thing. That's been the biggest criticism.
Yeah, for sure.
And Don, yeah, I can speak for a lot of us Eagles fans. We were thinking about you today. Especially when you went up 7-0, and then you started creeping yourselves back in it. We were thinking about you.
Don, were you at the game, brother? I know there's a bunch of Eagles fans that were there.
Yeah, Bill, we expected more from Reddick too. And like I said, I don't think he was rushing the passer enough. I saw numerous snaps where he was dropping back. So I don't know why you go get a guy like that, the drop back in coverage, but to each sunglass wearer inside their own. Yo, Bryce.
Bryce, what up, brother?
40 Boy says Hurts was the actual offense MVP with how he used his feet and threw to AJ in the first half. Kaiser White was everywhere. Defense MVP. Okay. Greg, who would you give offense and defense to?
Can't argue with that. I mean, I would probably lean more to AJ. But obviously when you factor in Jalen's 90 on the ground, it's something you can't sniff at when you talk about total game. So I'll go Jalen just because AJ didn't get into the end zone. If AJ would have capped off something with an end zone trip, then that would have been a really good, a really nice, obviously super start from there. I'll go Bradbury. Just first game, get the pick 6. It was a big point there too. But Kaiser White was the part of that pick 6, right? He was the tip ball of that pick 6. But I'll go Bradbury just because he got the pick and the score.
Yeah.
And you didn't hear him all game, right? They went after Slay a little bit, which was strange. And Slay gave up that one touchdown, which I know he probably wants back because he was close to it, to DJ Chark. But I think they didn't really target Bradbury after that, which again kind of it goes to show you what type of game he had, right?
Yeah, they targeted him on a deep ball. After that, and he had great coverage on it. 40 boy, thanks for the super chat. He said, "Let's put Gannon on an air fryer and call it a day." Completely agree. Offensively, I mean, you guys,
Let's go.
Everybody sort of took everybody. I mean, AJ's the obvious one, and Jalen another obvious one. So, I'll just say the running game as a whole was your offense MVP because you did what you did, and you did it at an elite level again. Offensively, it's a tough one. I'm gonna go Chauncey Gardner. I thought he looked well, or looked good, especially at times where he flashed, early on in the football game, and he's got to get comfortable with a new scheme and sort of playing. I don't want to say out of position, but in different positions.
Newish position, yeah.
So I'll give it to him defensively. I thought he made some good tackles in the open field, etc. But Bradbury had a great game because, like I said, there was a couple other targets where he was smothering. So that's great to say. Great to say. Greg, I know we're keeping it short tonight, so you want to give our crumbs out?
Yeah. I actually got a couple.
Bit away.
First is what's that?
Oh, I got to get water, so go ahead.
Okay. No, first crumb is going to be the NFL for the San Francisco and Chicago game. Not only did you play it, but there was one point in the game where you called it a personal foul, 15-yard penalty on someone for bringing a towel out to try and dry the ball. Well, I mean, come on. How does that even happen? I understand you're not supposed to bring towels out, but did you see the situation that you were in? Come on. That's a little ridiculous. Yeah, they called a 15-yard penalty on someone for bringing out a towel to dry the ball off.
Wow.
In that game. Come on. Really? And then the trio of upset specials yesterday that paid teams to come into town just to beat their ass. You got Texas A&M paid $1.5 million to Appalachian State to come in and lose to them. So hopefully that NIL money that Jimbo Fisher paid out to get the number one recruiting class. How's that going for you, Jimbo? You still pissed off at Nick Saban for calling you out on that one? Nebraska paid $1.4 million to Georgia Southern to come in and beat them on their own turf. And then Notre Dame.
And then fire their coach.
I'm going to get to that one in a second because they're even cost themselves even more money. Notre Dame paid $1.25 million to Marshall to come in there and beat them and at hallowed grounds. And that one was the best to me. There's nothing better to me than watching Notre Dame lose. But on the Scott Frost firing, and Scott Frost is 100% the crumb of the week, Nebraska, by firing him, paid – hold on, what is it? They paid – if they would have held on to Scott Frost till October 1st, which, let's be real, you're not really changing anything in college football in the next 3 weeks. For Nebraska, your buyout for him would have dropped to $7.5 million. I'm trying to – I thought I had it up, but his buyout – yeah, Scott Frost was so bad they paid $7.5 million extra to fire him instead of waiting till October 1st when that 7.5 would have come off his buyout clause. So Scott Frost, well done. Way to get your money.
Huh? So he got $7.5 million for his buyout.
Extra by being so bad and going now.
Wow.
Yeah. So they're my few crumbs there. Short, sweet, but yeah, I mean, yes, Don, I did love the Notre Dame loss. There's nothing better, and I had them. I bet them too. So it's a double loss. It's what you get, though. It's why it's why I'm a degenerate. But yes, that loss was amazing.
Yeah, it's always nice. But I do like their head coach. It's just
Yes. No, I don't have any. What's it? Kyle Freeman, right? Something like that. Yeah. No, I think he's going to do well. It's just welcome to big time college football. And I guess why were they ranked number 5 overall to come into the year with a brand new head coach and essentially a brand new team?
Yeah.
Like why were you ranked number 5? That's Crumble City.
Yeah, Marcus Freeman. And yeah, Taylor, about the Cowboys. This is our year. Best running joke in football. Yep, and they are who we thought they were. And mine's Jonathan Gannon. I already talked about it earlier, so I don't need to reiterate it. We all know why he is, and maybe he'll change. He'll be crumbing a week every week until he decides to be somebody different. So,
yeah.
With that, great little hour and a half show.
Oh, sorry. Let me throw it aside of the referees in the Alabama-Texas game. That roughing the passer to Bryce Young in the end zone. I don't know what that was. It was atrocity. It's just, I mean, the referees, we talk about it every week, regardless of where we are, NFL, NBA, MLB, college. The referees always find a way to show up. But yeah, I mean, when you look back at that, that was just a sack and should have been a safety. And who knows what that would have done to the game, right?
Yeah, I didn't see it live. It's all after the fact. But yeah. Terrible. Philly sports with Bake stole my thunder, Greg. Donna says, he's a Michigan fan. Was Ohio State win a fluke? Was it, Greg?
No, he just didn't play anybody good. You mean the Ohio State win against Notre Dame? I don't think any win's a fluke. It's early though, right? So it's, you had that one game against a really good opponent in Notre Dame. They played well. They played tough. Then they blew out whoever they played. What was it? Akron or Miami? Whoever they played, they blew them out. So I'm not going to take any stock in that one.
Yeah,
but when Marvin Harrison has 10 catches for 3 tutties in the first 3 quarters, I think you're pretty good.
Yeah, I agree. All right, well, we're a little shorthanded tonight, but we're not shorthanded. No Wells, no sweeps. That's Greg Moakvik. I'm Tom Arnone. We appreciate everybody out there joining us. If you missed the show, you can go back and watch it. It's on all your social media platforms as soon as the show ends here. We thank you all for listening, tuning in, everybody's comments. We hope we got to everybody's. We read a ton. If you're first time joining us, hit the like, hit the subscribe. Stay a while. We love you. And every Sunday, we're brought to you by our doc. Make them yours, Dr. Paul Vidal, Specialized Physical Therapy, LLC, location in Burlington, Cherry Hill, New Jersey. And make sure you go download FanUp right on the Apple Store. FanUp is the best way to enjoy fantasy sports, daily NFL contests, and more. Win great prizes. Sign up today. Use promo code A2D. That's a $50 value at FanUp. And again, you can download FanUp right on the Apple Store. And you're in the mood for a great cheesesteak, a little cocktail. Gleason's Bar, located at 700 Mill Creek Avenue in Levittown, PA. Use promo code A2D for 10% off your order whenever you dine in, take out, or online. Gleason's Bar and Steaks.com is where you can find them. And make sure you check out our good friends at Araya Public Adjusting. You have damage to your home or property, they may be able to help. Don't fight your homeowner's insurance alone. Contact Araya Public Adjusting at 813-564-3364. They're also on all your social media platforms. If you need any help, tell our good friends over at Araya Public Adjusting at A2D sent you. They'll take good care of you. Greg, great show.
Yeah, Tommy.
We appreciate you. 1-0, baby. On to the Vikings. Let's go.